Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We are absolutely excited and lucky enough to have Phil Gard on the call today, he's been a money coach for over 30 years, comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience, and especially working with people in the travel industry. So Phil, for those who don't know who you are, how about give us a bit of a background on who you are and what you do and where you've come from?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for inviting me as well. My background, I guess, is with Flight Centre back in 1995 is probably the most relevant part, where I started an area called MoneyWise. Screw Turner came up with the idea, or one of his finance people did. And it's just to help people sort out their money and make the most of where they are in life. And they saw that as a positive. They can make more commission. If they're making their commission, they know where that's going. They've got some plans, they've got some goals, and everyone's happier rather than just living day to day. So built that over 20 years, had a bit of time off, 3 years off with the kids, and then came back and started the money coaching area. So my background is really largely in financial planning and financial coaching in the more recent times, where I think people can get more empowered if they actually take control themselves, rather than financial planners, I believe, tend to tell you what to do and you may not buy into it. Whereas a coach is really there to try and talk you through the options you've got and get you to understand it, so you make the decisions and you then much more in control, I think, is the main thing. Yeah.
And how's the current situation affecting you and your business, and how are you operating personally and those sorts of things? How's homeschooling going?
Yeah. So like a lot of people, we've got 3 kids at home who are right now in their rooms on their various technology, doing their study, doing their sucking up the Wi-Fi. So if it cuts out, we know why. And luckily they're sort of in that secondary, getting towards secondary, so grade 6, grade 8, grade 10. So don't need that hands-on that lots of you guys probably have to have when you've got really little kids. So that's a bit of a challenge, having everyone in the same house at the same time, and then me being the person that can't sit still, trying to push them outside and go for a walk, go for a bike ride, go and do something, and they just want to get on their technology and do this once they've finished their schoolwork. So that's very challenging. Financially, obviously, everything's slowed down a bit. People do need to have help with their finances and do need a bit of coaching, a bit of help in these times. But I dealt with individuals, but also dealing with corporate. So had a few universities I was talking to, and as you know, universities are almost in as tough a spot as travel at the moment with overseas students. So there's a few things there that we're all in our own little problems of different sorts. We'll be fine. We're better off than most people, so we know that. And preparing things during your life is so important, and it comes back to roost now, where you go, thank God we actually prepared this and got loans paid down, and had emergency funds for 3 to 6 months, and you sort of laughed at it a little bit, but then these are the times when you realise how important it was that you did that. So when we get out of this, hopefully people then realise the importance of doing that, of having that backup, and it will be a new world.
Yeah, and I think the experience or the learning that'll come from this time will only encourage people to get themselves more financially stable or set up, or as you said, have those 3 months or 6 months in reserve of what they need to, because I guess there is always a chance that this could happen again, at some point. So knowing that this is now a possibility, it's important that people are thinking about, what are they doing, once this all comes back again, are they putting 10% of their income, to the side or saving for the rainy day, but actually doing it in a structured way, that will allow them to actually survive the other side, which is great. Exactly. And I guess
probably, sorry to interrupt, but I just think of a couple of clients I've got at the moment, and they're just before all of this happened, one was on over 350 grand a year and working with Telstra. Another one was on over 220, both in different situations. But I then thought, obviously they're going to be pretty financially well off. And you then looked at their finances and thought, my God, what have you been doing with all this money for the last 20 years of your life? You're in your mid 40s, it's just been soaked up by activity and things that you've created in your life. And wow, how could you spend that much money, so to speak? So
Yeah.
it's interesting that hopefully they will snap out of it, and we will all snap out a little bit to say, let's put something away. And you remember when you're earning 40 grand or you're earning 400 grand. When you're earning 40 grand the first time, you thought you had lots of money and you allocated money to places, but we soak it up with more stuff and more activities, which is something we need to be aware of, and hopefully they and others will put something away and prepare a bit for later.
And even, I guess, going through this situation over the next few months, is you're going to realize what's important and what you do need, and what you do need to spend your money on, and what you don't need to spend your money on. And it could be the push in the direction that a lot of people need to actually work out, their finances. And I know individually, I try to be as conscious as I can on things, but going from it doesn't matter what I earn. I've had lots of different roles over the last few years, and lots of different incomes, I guess, and my lifestyle has never really changed all that much. You blame it on kids costing you whatever it costs them, or you just live within your means. So it'll be interesting after these sort of 4 or 5 months, or however long it is, to look back and go, well, what did I spend my money on? What did I need to, and what don't I need to? And if you could then adapt that new lifestyle, and then if you go back to earning the money that you were before, or something similar, how much of that could you put to the side, for that rainy day, or start investing, as we'll probably get into, around super or shares, or other investment opportunities to help our money grow. Not only sit under the mattress, but actually accumulate while sitting there under the mattress as well. So, and we might, that's probably a good segue, mate. We'll probably just crack into a few questions that we've got from some of the people in the group. Shelley asked about, I guess, a strategy moving forward with super. Obviously a lot of people have had a bit of a hit with their super. I haven't looked at mine. I'm not game enough to see what it looks like. But what should people be thinking about with their super moving forward? What's your opinion on that?
Same as you. I haven't logged into my super to look at it for 2 months because I'm not too scared to, but I'm quite aware that it's probably dropped quite a bit, because I was very aggressive. I've gone incredibly aggressive with my superannuation, because my mind just goes back to the fact of, I can't get this money till I'm 60. So whether I'm 50, 40, 35, whatever I am, that's a long time before I can access this money. So yes, it will go up and down, as I'll show you some graphs in a minute, but it can go up and down over this time. But based on that, it's going to go forward, because all super is a whole lot of companies and businesses that you've invested your money in, and properties and things indirectly that the super fund's invested it in. So they're all things we support every single day to live. Unless we're a communist society, basically we are supporting the whole of this every single day by going to Woolies, buying your bed, fixing up the car. Everything you do is actually buying products from people. That's just a company, that is just a share, that is just your super. So in a way, you can't help but support the whole system. And yes, a lot of it's based on sentiment, but over the long term, it's got to go in that trajectory heading up over time. As long as you spread your risk, dramatically. A lot of people get worried about, talk about shares and say, oh, look, I don't invest in shares because 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I bought this mining stock that someone told me about. I said, well, that wasn't investing. That was like gambling. You could have gone in and chucked it on red and had a better chance. So I look at shares as a get rich slow system, where with your super, with your shares, whichever one we're talking about, investing it in something which has got that long-term, 150 different companies there, whether it's with Hostplus, IWF, whoever it's with. These businesses are trying to grow, and over time, if you've got 150 of them, yes, there'll be probably 10 of them might struggle, go bust, but there'll be another 20, 30, 40, 50 that'll make up for them. So the average will be around that 9% over 20 years. So I'd rather have the 9% average over 20 years than have a say, oh, look, I'll put a bit of it back in cash. And you put it back in cash and all you're doing is guaranteeing you're going to get 1 or 2%. So you're guaranteeing you're not going to have money at the other end. So that's my general view of investing in super is, well, if I don't need to access it, if I've got a job and I'm working and I'm earning an income, then I'm building this nest egg that will one day support my existence to not have to work as much. And even in our situation now, you know, both my wife and I had made that choice a year ago where we've both been working for 2 to 3 days a week and working out how to massage it and getting income from shares and saying, oh, wow, this is what we've built our lives over for 25 years of paying off debt and investing. And now we can see some dividends as such, and actual dividends coming from the shares. That is our future, that one day this will be supporting our existence. And that's really what super is. You're building your super up over that time so that when you reach that age 60, or maybe you crack on to 65 and more working because you love it, and that will start to replace your need to work for someone else or work every day. It'll pay you a bit of income over this time. So I don't know that I've answered your question properly because I go off on a bit of a tangent, but I think it's the share market in general. Let's just have a look. I want to share the screen if that's all right.
I think from what I hear from that, I guess, Phil, is things like, I guess if you do want to up your ante for super, knowing that, you know, whichever super program you're in, it is spread over, you know, a number of companies, you know, and a lot of your everyday companies like Woolies and Coles or you know, places that you're actually contributing just by being an active member of society and spending your money in those places. So, you know, and as you said, you know, sometimes just betting on one share, one company, you know, that you think might be a bit of a quick rich or you know, a triple or a quadruple. You know, I wish I had bought them back then, hindsight type investment, which again, you know, people are willing to have a crack if they want to, but you know, as you said, it's kind of like gambling, you know, and it's may not necessarily be the big plan.
Yeah, if you've gone into this already having a lot of shares within your super or within your investments, you know, to sell them now is just guaranteeing that you're going to lose money on them. And I know everyone's probably heard this a lot of times, but it is so true. If you just stick with it, it's a bit like, I relate it to people who know a bit more about property, saying, well, if someone came to you and offered you 30% less for the house that you're living in now, would you sell it because you're worried about what will happen in the future? Or would you go, no, that's ridiculous, I'll sit back and wait. Yes, obviously the market's down a bit because they offered me less, but I'm not going to sell it. So if you can have that same attitude with your super or with your shares, that you don't actually need to sell them, can you hold on and wait for things to come back up again, which they always have over 100 years? No, it's the same as a house in a way, that they've offered you a price which is too low, so don't go with it. Yeah.
And just like, you know, adding extra contributions to your super could be like adding extra room to your house.
Yeah.
You know, so that eventually one day when the market does come back, so when super does come back, or when the housing market comes back, you've actually put in your own extra income or money that you had on the side that wasn't under the mattress. You've invested that into the possible opportunity for that to even grow even further at some point.
And if you put it into super, obviously there's pros and cons. The con is you can't access it till you're 60, which is probably good anyway if you don't need it right now. And you're not going to be complaining when you're 60, 65, when you put in a bit more when you're younger and you think, oh, I've got extra money in there. You're not going to be complaining at that point. But the pro is that it's in an environment that's going to grow and isn't taxed as heavily, and you can access it at the other end on a tax reduced basis. So it's a good investment vehicle if you're getting closer to that place to put it away, but you can't access it till you're 60 is the trick.
Whereas I guess a share market portfolio or investing in the ASX 200 or whatnot could also provide dividends at some point that, you know, can be returns to you, as opposed to not being able to access it to your 60. So, you know, playing in both spaces, for instance, might be a good strategy or something to think about.
Yeah, very much depends on the person. When people say, well, how do I get rich quick, or how do I how do I invest? Everyone is very different. Everyone's got different things, priorities happening in life. And you'd be talking to people who want to do this, and I'll say, well, hang on, what's going on in your life? Are you about to have children? Are you about to get married? What these things are going to impact on you buying that investment property or doing whatever. And they've had to sit back and go, oh, I never really thought of the fact, and it seems silly, but I've never really thought of the fact my wife might be off, or I might be off for 6 or 12 months because we're about to have a child, or that my job's not as secure as I thought it was going to be. And so all those things suddenly come into well, how do I plan for that? How do I prepare for that? And how do I do my best to sort of make sure that I'm making the right decisions? So I'm trying to empower people in a way, and I don't love that word because it's a bit wanky these days. Anyway, I'm sort of trying to get people to get control of where they are and know where they're going to. And I guess that's with super and shares is the same thing. We want to grow what we've got, so one day we can live on that money. It's like our 25-year holiday we're planning for at the other end.
I think there was another question on the group as well, I think from Sam, that did mention, what do you think is going to happen to the share market? And, is it a good time to buy when the market is low? And, even just a small amount, is that, I don't know. It's
there's a few good things there where if you're able to put in a little bit, sometime, we've looked at it now, the share market's dropped 25-30%, whether it's the US or Australia, it's about similar, sort of 25-30% from its highs 2 months ago. Based on that, is it going to grow? Is it going to drop further? Potentially, no one really knows. We didn't know this was going to happen. No one knows for sure, but can you look forward and say, well, is this an opportunity that in 3 years' time, 2 years' time, 6 months' time, 5 years' time, are you going to look back and go, oh, wow, what an opportunity it was? And we all know those. We've seen shares, whether it was Flight Centre shares at $4 or whether it was BHP or CSL, and we look back, or Commonwealth Bank years ago, we look back and go, oh, wow, I wish I bought some of those. So if you do have an opportunity, I don't think it's a case of buying individual shares. I'd be looking at probably broadly buying a basket of shares, they call it, whether it's through an ETF, they call them, or managed fund, ETFs, and a bit cheaper. So a basket of funds where you're investing in the economy as such. So investing in a group of ASX 200, 200 of the biggest companies or whatever it is. So you're picking the point now that, yes, this is the ASX might be at 5,200, 5,300 or something, was at 7,200. So is it going to go back there? It's dropped 30%. To actually get back there, it would have to grow at probably 40% on a percentage basis. But over time, will you look back in 2-3 years' time and say, what a great opportunity, it's grown 20% over that time, or whatever it might be. So yes, it is a really good opportunity that I'm sure anyone in that investing world is looking at it going, wow, yes, I don't know if it's going to drop a little bit more, but in 3 or 5 years, I'm going to look back and say, historically, you can pick any 5 to 10 years and you're going to find that the share market's grown in that 10-year period for sure. So yes, it is a really good opportunity in that space of unknown right now. But yeah, I'm certainly looking at it saying, well, okay, yes, I'm not going to invest in direct specific shares, but I'll look at groups of shares. And I might just share one little graph if that's all right with you. Don't know if you can see this one.
Yep.
Enlarge a bit. This is, lots of fund managers, we call them, whether BT, Colonial, whoever they might be, create these things. This is a pretty good one that Fidelity put together. Is that big enough on your screen?
Yeah, maybe a little bit bigger might help.
Yeah. So it's just the 30 years of the 30-year graph of the Australian share market and global shares over that time as well. This is only to the 31st of December. They produced maybe 6 months. So it'll be an interesting one in the end of June, I'm sure. We've lost the 87 crash down the bottom there. It's 1990s where the 30 years have started. But that was, when that was there, it was an interesting one. We can see that what happened in 2008. But what we're trying to show you here is over this time, if you'd invested over those 30 years, your $10,000 would have grown to $141,000 if you just invested in the 200 biggest companies. So if you didn't try and choose, it wasn't specific shares, you just jumped in a fund, it's invested there, you've forgotten about it. You're talking about adding bits of money. Best thing you can possibly do is to be adding a little bit every single month along this track. So when it went down, you're buying things at a fire sale pretty much. So if you were buying things all through this period, back in 2007, 2008, 2009, and worried about where you're going, those dollars you spent would be worth a lot more because you've bought things cheap. So if you were buying along this track, it would be better than having just dropped 10,000 in there 30 years ago. You'd be significantly better off if you were buying something along the way. So something I've set up with my kids several years ago was instead of putting it into just a normal bank account for the kids for their future, if I can pick up a little ASX 200 share, a mix of shares, and just drop it in there and put $100 a month or 200 a quarter or something, and just it goes in automatically. I don't even think about it, and it's a great learning experience for them too, for me to pull up that and show them what their shares have done and whether they've dropped or gone up. So that's just a little side shoot. But you can see here, this is the world over that period of time with lots of different crises and things that have happened. And yes, is this a different one? Yes, it probably is, but is it going to solve itself quickly, or is it going to take a bit of time? We don't know for sure. As soon as we get a vaccine, I think things are going to improve pretty dramatically.
It's all a long game stuff, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long game, and this is an opportunity, one of these little down or big downturns. Just a great opportunity to be buying in down at this spot down here when it was 2008, 2009. So if you are working, you have got flow, you have the ability to do it, to put money into something which is shares. Sometime in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to look back. I'll be amazed if you're not looking back in 3 or 5 years and saying what a great time it was to have got in and started to invest.
Yeah. And I guess the same as the super side of things is, the super funds are playing in this space as well.
Yeah.
Majority of that stuff is in there. So, whether it is that you open up a CommSec account and start playing in that space with a little bit of your extra funds that you might have that you do want to get in the game with, or if you increase your super contributions, it's possibly a similar outcome.
Just to grow, just to build your knowledge in that area. If you don't know where to start, there's some great. I'll just share this one. I mean, this is moneysmart.gov.au, which is just a government website, which has a whole lot of really good resources: managing your money, reducing your debt, planning for your future, growing your wealth. It'll teach you about shares. It'll show you where to actually start, where to think of buying, how you buy them, without it, putting it off and saying, "Oh, I'll never learn, so I'm never going to try." So Money Smart is a great place that you can go to and learn those things.
Well, that's and obviously some great tips, or I guess, or advice, or opinions even in there, Phil, which is really helpful. Even that one with the kids account, I've got the kids bank account that we do the direct debits out of our wages, myself to one of the kids and my wife to the other. Turning that from a bank account that's, I guess, accumulating next to nothing in interest at the moment, but possibly changing or putting half of that or something like that into an ASX 200, and knowing that we are playing this, you can't touch that money to your 18 or 21 game anyway. What an opportunity to maybe move that from there to there, and see what that looks like, in 10 or 12 or 13 years, because we're not necessarily trying to move money to get rich quick, but we're putting it away to show them what that what saving looks like and all those things. So that's a really good tip.
Yeah, you're buying all the time, and that's the thing. They don't have to have it when they're 18 or 20. It might be growing, might be their house deposit as opposed to their car.
Absolutely.
So or their overseas trip, if that's where we go.
So what I think we might do now is just quickly take a sidestep to I guess some of the stuff that you talked about originally, which was around that sort of spending plan or budgeting. I know you don't like the word budgeting. There's a lot of the guys out there at the moment are now getting job keeper
Yeah.
Some might be on job seeker, and I think some of the sole traders, we're all pretty confident we'll see that come through in early May as well. So I guess still probably an opportunity for a lot of people to make sure that they are on top of, you know, that ingoings and outgoings side of things. If they haven't finished ticking every box that they should have at the moment, or they've started some of it, or they may have forgot about certain things that they should be thinking about. What are the main things that you think that people should be doing? And if it is safe for pause mortgage, you know, what does that look like? What, you know, for some people that may not necessarily understand what that really entails.
Yeah. So yeah, the first step is, as we said in those early communications, was to actually just get in control of where you are right now and know what it costs you to live and cut back. I know that our family is cut back and knows a lot more detail about what we actually do and don't spend their money on. Wow, we don't need to be going out this many times a week, or we don't need to be getting this much takeaway, and you know, we do things together on a cheaper basis probably at the moment, and you're forced to because you can't go out and do a lot of those things you probably used to spend your money on. So it's a good opportunity right now. But yes, getting control first of all, which is, you know, calling your bank, whether it's a credit card or personal loan or home loan. It's amazing how within even 6 months of getting a home loan or a personal loan, you can ring and ask for a better rate, and it's amazing how they're all very competitive these days. So yeah, if your home loan hasn't got something underneath 3% on it, then or 3% as a high point, then you want to be talking to your bank and just asking and just saying, you know, a mortgage broker's spoken to me and is trying to sell me something for the low twos, mid twos. What can you do? Because I prefer to stay with you, and that's all you really have to say, and they'll work with you. So calling those people, the usual ones, calling electricity, gas, government websites. There's a couple of good comparison sites. Energy Made Easy by .gov, which is a good website just to do a comparison. In Victoria, you can get $50 just to do a government comparison as well if you go to their website. What's that one called? I think it's called, I'm not sure. There's a Victorian government one though. Car insurance, house insurance, the usual thing, whether it's going online, doing the comparisons and getting those checked. Health insurance, government once again has got a good comparison site, privatehealth.gov. There's a members own one, which is a not-for-profit, which we ended up using a few years back. So just getting control of where the money is going out and checking your direct debits, as we mentioned, making sure there aren't a few things there that you'd forgotten about or didn't know what they were. So those things, pausing your debt. So we talked about maybe, if you're in that situation where it's very tight and you've lost jobs and the $1,500 you may be trying to live on obviously isn't going to pay for your mortgage, then yes, you might be in a position you have to pause your mortgage. Great that we're able to do that sort of thing. And interest rates are very low, so it's not going to kill you if it's, you've got a 3% rate and you're having to pause it for 6 months. It's not going to really hurt. So if that's something you have to do, then definitely that's the way, to look at it, to go. But if you don't have to do that and you've got someone working, what they're really doing, the banks are just putting off the debt till later, and you putting off the debt till later. So the interest is accruing on your debt. So at some point you're just another 6 months behind in your repayments for later in life. So if you can keep doing it, do it. But if you can't, understandable, and at least rates are really low, so it's not going to really hurt.
And so, for instance, if the interest repayment per month is $1,000, because it's easy to use round numbers, then if you pause for 6 months, that interest of $6,000 is still going to be added to the other side of your loan. They're just removing the ability to having to pay your monthly payment, but that interest is still accruing.
Yes. So you'll find that your loan's higher in each month. It's going to be going up. You just haven't paid that back. It's a good, interesting point though. If you've got a if you've got a $400,000 loan and you're paying a couple of grand a month in your minimum repayment, out of that couple of $1,000, you probably find 1,000 of that is interest. So by you paying your minimum off all these years, you're actually only just hanging in there and paying a little bit off your loan every month. And you do look forward in 20 years and go, wow, I've ended up paying almost twice what I borrowed in the first place. So if you can see that, and you do have the ability, throwing that extra money at your mortgage and getting that out of your debt away from you completely, which is, I've never loved debt that isn't income producing debt. So house debt, something we just hammered very early on while we were financially capable to do it more, and hammered that debt which is not income producing. When I say income producing is when you've got debt on shares or debt on investment property where there's some future income capacity that's coming from it. So as you pay that off, that's all yours then. So getting rid of that mortgage is still really high on my priority list. But interest rates are very low. So, there's a balance of, okay, do I pay off a 3% mortgage, or do I potentially make 5 or 10% or more on shares over the next few years? So that's really a personal preference to talk to each person individually, really, and to work it through yourself. What is my plan? Where do I see my family going? Where do I see my costs going over the coming years? My job. So there's lots of things you've got to bring into account there. There's no one fits everyone situation, unfortunately.
It is definitely something that all the banks have offered. I've done it myself personally, and a really, really simple process. I think we just jumped into the online banking, clicked a couple of buttons, agreed to a few terms and conditions, and then it was done. Received a text message and an email a couple of days later just saying it's all done and dusted and approved, which is, a really simple process. And again, it's there for you if you need to do it. Then it's probably wise. And as you said, it's not the biggest impact to you, to have that small amount of interest added to your loan for the future.
Yeah.
Compared to, say, redrawing 10 grand worth of super, or 20 grand if you did, the first 10 this year and the second 10, there's a lot bigger impact.
That's a bit more of a last resort sort of thing if you need to do that, I think. If you can avoid having to access your super, that's the last step. It has to be pretty dire to be doing that. With your cash flow, you did mention, getting control is the first thing, knowing where your money's going, but then creating that strategy of how you actually split your money. So you do have some sort of strategy, banking strategy, worked out what all your fixed expenses were, and maybe they sit in one offset account or one bank account completely separate. And then you've got your play money, and then you've got, okay, my future money, how much is that based on my cash flow? This is what I could put away for the future. So having some banking system to make this work is so important. Lots of people go through, do their budget, work it out, but don't really know where to take that next. So you take that by having some system behind it to make it happen without you having to think about it.
I think that's
a bit of a need for it.
Yeah, that 3 bank account sort of system. I think probably got some advice from you about 15 years ago. Personally, that I think we've pretty well stuck with, which is having that direct debit, that spending, that bills. Finding that account where you know how much needs to go in there, and then having that play money that you need, and obviously trying to reduce that play down as much as you possibly can, with keeping not removing all the fun from life, but being on top of that, and then that future stuff, which is wherever that investment you choose to put it all in one place, or whether it's a little bit of shares, a little bit of investment property, a little bit of extra contribution to your super, something that that's future money that's going to come back to you at some point. I think it's always worked for me. Sometimes it's worked better than others. I think revisiting it is probably what I personally, haven't done enough. Because what you did 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and you've just left that alone. I think sometimes when income's increased, we haven't moved more to the forward account, if that makes sense. We've probably left a little bit more in the play account, and probably just increased the comfort of life, and the lifestyle's probably increased a little bit more. So
and we've taken work for granted in a way. We've taken work for, there'll always be money coming in, whether it's from here or there. And this is probably a situation where we realise, well, there could be situations in life where it doesn't happen. We don't have that money coming in. So having that, when we do get back to a situation that's a bit more normal, making sure you've got that 3 to 6 months of money aside, extra off your mortgage, whether it's where it is, something which will tie you through and get you through something which other people will struggle with. Yeah, so setting things up automatically, separating the money, and just having a plan. You know, we hear this so often, but having some sort of a basic money plan that you might be able to put together yourself. Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, and how am I going to get there realistically? Or am I going to look at this in 12 months' time and find I'm in exactly the same place with the same little bit more for mortgage, but that's all. So where am I going with my finances, and the cash flow, banking strategy, all so important. It sounds very simple, but they are so important.
And I think just a really good opportunity, like we've spoke with a lot of people on these Zoom chats, is just taking that opportunity to work on your business instead of in your business, or and this is working on your finances as opposed to just your day-to-day usage of your finances. You know, it's cleaning out your closet, it's doing those things around the house that you're always going to do. You know, finances is such a key point for everybody at the moment in this current situation. That, you know, if you're not spending a little bit of time, a little bit of energy and effort on getting on top of it, not only this, how do I use this $1,500? How do I pause my mortgage? How do I do all this so I can survive this next sort of 5 to 6 months? But then also using this experience to go, okay, well, what did I learn from that? And when things do start to go the other way, how much do I really need to live? How much do I need to invest in the future? And all of those things. So I think it's just, again, like, you know, the silver lining that everyone's looking for in this situation. This is a silver lining that we can see is go, well, this has forced me to look at my money and my finances and what do I need to do and how can I, you know, when things improve, you know, how do I make that better for me or future proof so that I'm not in the same situation on the other side. So
yeah, and it's not about giving up all your lifestyle now. I mean, we still enjoy ourselves and do a lot of things and go traveling, but we feel in control and we're more aware of where money goes. So we know that we're going to be fine. And I think not just the fine, it's looking forward to the possibilities. So if you are giving up certain things, and instead of thinking negatively about it, about, oh, look, I deserve this, I deserve to go out to dinner 4 times a week or whatever it is, or get takeaway. Instead of looking at, you look at the possibilities of if you missed out on that $100 a week or whatever it is, what would that $100 a week that you've separated, forgotten about, what would that mean to you in 5 years, 10 years if you put it away? And oh wow, on my mortgage, it means that my mortgage is paid off 5 years earlier. So I've got 5 years of less mortgage and 5 years where I'm not paying any mortgage in the future. And so those sort of, you need to find the reason why you're giving up now. If you don't do that, then you will never give it up now. It's a bit like, you know, any habits, good habits, bad habits. And savings is one of those, you know, is a great addiction. Once you start saving money, it's one of the really good addictions you'll find. If you did that and you started to save a little bit and suddenly you've got 5 or 10 grand or your mortgage has dropped by this amount, it can be quite addictive. You don't want to touch it. So you want more, you want it to get further. And so, yeah.
And so I guess just to wrap up a little bit, Phil, because I'm sure we could talk for ages, both, you know, very interested in this side of the world. But what are the major sort of takeaways? What would you like people to really be considering and thinking about, you know, right now to get themselves fully, you know, on top of their current situation? What should they be thinking about for the future? So that I guess as agents and travel agents can crack on and start working on, you know, their businesses and you know, their individual, you know, situations and careers moving forward for the other side. So finance isn't necessarily.
So I think the first takeaway is knowing where you are now. So this has probably pushed a lot of people into having to write down things they haven't written down before. You know, what does it cost me to live? What are my assets? What are my debts? What's my priorities? What do I really want out of this? So where you are now, where you want to be, and then how you're going to get there. There's sort of the 3 steps. So getting control now, creating a system to make that work, I think is a very important thing. Checking up your super and being aware that, yes, it is, if it's already in shares and it has had a drop already, the worst thing you can probably do right now is to move it out of shares within your super, which if you're in a normal fund, most people in just a balanced fund, then you'll probably find that 70% of it was in shares and property, so it has had a bit of a hit. So not panicking, knowing that the long term we will be fine, and just stick with it. You can't access it till you're 60, 65 when you finish work anyway, so let's just let it roll. And if you do have that money, look at whether this is a good opportunity right now, which I'm sure in 5 years' time we'll look back and go, wow, what a great opportunity that was. Sometime around then, could have been November, could have been this year, could have been November this year, could have been now. Sometime around then, we're going to look back and say, gee, the market has come back, because all they are is companies that we buy stuff from every day anyway. Do it the get rich slow system and mix it amongst hundreds of companies. So with some of the resources we'll share with you is where you can find these sorts of places and learn about these sorts of things yourself. Good opportunity while you're at home. One thing we didn't mention was just making sure any insurances you got in place, your life insurance, your disability, your income protection won't cover you through this, but will if you get sick or injured. Your super fund's probably got some. Making sure you have a will in place, but really having a plan, I think, is using this opportunity to look at all these things and having a future plan of how you're going to be in a situation where one day you're one of these lucky people that you've got investments that's going to pay you an income, whether it's super shares, property. You've got things that are going to prepare and look after you for the future. To use this opportunity right now as yes, shares are on sale. Maybe the sale will get better. But at some point there's a sale price right now that in the next 3 to 5 years or however long it is, we're going to know that things are going to come back, because these are just companies that we buy from.
It's great. It's great advice, Phil. And look, we really appreciate you taking the time to jump on today and give us some advice and some opinions and something to think about. And as you said, we'll drop a whole heap of resources into this post and links for people to go to, and we'll obviously pop your contact details in there too, Phil, if anyone wants to reach out to you directly, individually, and look at possibly using your services in any way, shape or form as well. They're welcome to do that too. So yeah, again, thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. I know that you helped me in those early days in my flight center career, and hence why I reached out to you originally. You've got a wealth of knowledge and a really, really simple way of looking at how to manage your everyday finances. And I know, like many, I don't think that I would be in the same situation as I am right now, or as comfortable as I feel, or as less stressed about finance, if I didn't get a chance to have some of those conversations with yourself and those MoneyWise guys back in the day. So we do thank you for that as well.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, well, it's all hard work that you've got to actually go ahead and do some things too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well done. Thank you. And thanks for the opportunity too. Good luck, everyone. I know it's a crazy world out there, but yeah, just flip me an email or reach out if you want to have a chat. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, mate. Well, we'll leave it there, and we'll hopefully we'll chat to you soon, and we'll keep putting some content onto this page and keep people up to date with some ideas and advice and things that they should be considering. And as we go through this situation, and things might change, there could be new things that come in, different time frames, all other things that we might need to consider. So, we might take the opportunity to jump back on and have another chat in a little while if we think that we can add some more value or update on anything that was new.
Yeah, no, that's great. Absolutely. Thanks, Josh.
All right, Phil. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, bye.